Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Matty here and welcome back to our mini series that we're doing where we're going over every single deck in Pokemon Pocket. Kind of a crazy idea. Am I regretting it at this point? Sort of. This is the fourth video of this series. A4 is set to release early next week on the 30th. So I figured we do this short series. There's a lot of really strong decks, or really cool decks in Pokemon Pocket that we talk about on a daily basis, right? That's the metagame. But there are literally hundreds of decks that see play throughout the entire season that nobody really talks about. One, because they're probably not very good, and two, they're not really worth talking about, but that's what this series is all about. Today, we're going over every single electric type deck in the game right now. We've scoured Limitless. We have pulled every single electric type deck there is to talk about. The electric type is really interesting. Of course, Oricorio does make almost every electric type deck somewhat viable and really annoying to deal with. So I expect that that's what most of these decks are just decks playing Oricorio. But there's a lot of good electric type Pokemon and lightning Pokemon that you probably never really thought of. So anyway, let's get right into it, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe. All right, guys. So first off, we've got Wigglytuff EX with Tapu Koko EX, and then we also have Togedemaru, which does Electro Smash, 20 damage, flip a coin of heads, it does 20 more damage. And we all do have Sophocles, which is going to boost the damage of Togedemaru, so that's something, to be honest with you. I mean, Togedemaru can kind of pop off for, like, what is that, 70 damage? And we have Electrical Cord, we've got Sleepy Song, the old classic Wigglytuff EX, you know what, there it is. Not much else to say about it. Here, we've got the old classic Toucannon combo. People love to throw things like Toucannon and Snorlax and Stoutland just in any really other Pokemon in the game. And this is an example of that, Tapu Koko and Toucannon with a rare candy deck here. Yep, there it is. Pretty cool. We're going to move quickly here. We actually have a Alolan Golem with Sophocles, which, does boost the damage, right? So Sophocles does work with a Alolan Golem, and we've got an Oricorio. So the thing with this Golem card is that it has 160 HP. Rare candy does exist, right? So we can go into this Pokemon for sure, but it takes 4 energy to attack, and it does do 150 damage. So theoretically speaking, Alolan Golem, I think with Sophocles, can hit for 180, which is kind of crazy for 4 energies if you think about it, and then you have to discard 2 energies for sure. But anyway, we do have Electrical Cord, so the idea of this deck is sound, it does make sense, and it honestly could win games, which is pretty funny. Here is Genetic Apex, Circle Circuit Pikachu with 2 Oricorio and 2 Pachirisu. This is, again, something that I think about on a daily basis. I'm like, whenever, we're in a metagame at any given time, I think to myself, is Genetic Apex Pikachu actually okay? Right? Because we have Dawn, we have Oricorio, we've gotten Zeraora, which isn't in this deck list. There are so many ways of which that we can support this Pikachu deck that we didn't have previously. People just continue not to play it, which is probably the right decision, to be fair. But anyway, Oricorio and Genetic Apex Pikachu. Next up is Vikavolt with Electivire. So again, Sophocles here, I believe, does work for Vikavolt, and I don't know if it works for Electivire, which is kind of interesting. But I don't know exactly what Electivire does. I believe it's here to do a bunch of damage, and that's kind of all it does. It is actually a Stage 1 Pokemon, which is interesting. So it's not actually a Stage 2 Pokemon, no rare candy needed. And, it has seen some play. It's not a terrible Pokemon. Vikavolt, though, is one thing that I really wish did end up being metagame at some point. Hopefully, they revisit a card like Vikavolt, which turns off item cards. So having item lock, I think, would be really relevant in the format for sure. It can't be too good, of course, because it would be broken. But yeah, Vikavolt is a really fun Pokemon. I wish it saw more play. Here is Galvantula with Jolteon, with Oricorio, and Zeraora. So a lot is going on here. Galvantula is a Pokemon that actually saw a little bit of play. So you discard all energy from the Pokemon, but you do 70 damage for 2 lightning energies, and you get paralysis guaranteed, which is actually really strong. One of the stronger non-EX Pokemon in the entire game, to be fair, and did see a lot of fringe play in a lot of different decks. So here is one example of that. Next up, we've got Komodo. So Komodo is an interesting one. I think this Pokemon is in general just bad. So it does 130 for 2 energies on a Stage 2 Pokemon with a 150 HP. Now that is fighting and electric, so that is pretty tough, right? I mean, to be fair, we don't know if we're going to get both of those energies on Komodo, which is pretty rough. But we are able to pair it with our Oricorio, which I think is fairly okay. And we even have Rampardos in the deck as well, because why not? This is a deck that's definitely playing dual energies. Yeah, I don't know. Incredibly inconsistent, I would assume, in nature this deck is, but we are playing Oricorio, so maybe that kind of makes up for it. Here's Dragonite EX. This was something that I tested so much early on of this season. I thought Dragonite EX had a lot of potential, just because 180 is crazy, but unfortunately, I don't think this Pokemon was good enough this format. That is probably going to change. We are getting Lugia, but we're also getting Ho-Oh. So one thing to keep in mind is that Lugia is effectively the same thing as Dragonite, but Lugia discards the energies, the new Lugia that's coming. A Dragonite doesn't discard the energies. You just can't attack on your next turn. So maybe Lugia will end up just being better than Dragonite, but it is effectively the exact same attack cost, except just with one colorless instead of one fire. So there might be a lot of potential for Dragonite with all of the multi-energy support coming in the next format. Next on is Pawmot with Galvantula and Oricorio and Tapu Koko. So a little bit of everything here. You know, Pawmot is another kind of rare candy stage 2 Pokemon that's really not that bad. You do 70 damage for 2 energies, but if you get attacked, your opponent takes 30 damage. I don't know if this was really ever that relevant. I don't know what this really does, because there's a lot of Pokemon in the game that are going to 1-hit KO Pawmot. But this was a card that actually saw a decent amount of play at one point or another. I don't really have any other opinions about it. It's really not terrible. I think it just kind of missed the mark just a little bit. Here we have another Komodo deck. I don't know what the difference is here. Maybe we are not playing Oricorio here. Is that the difference? I don't know. We are playing Zeraora, but we're not playing Dawn, which you would think is probably somewhat relevant there. Next up is Manectric, which I actually do like Manectric as well. I think it's also a pretty fine Pokemon. Does 40 damage during your opponent's next turn. The defending Pokemon tries to attack. They have to flip a coin. If tails, the attack does nothing. So it's one of those decks. It's one of the like 50% you're immune next turn decks. But 1 energy, stage 1 Pokemon, 40 damage, right? So there is some inherent, I guess, ability there to do some stuff. And then, of course, we've got the old Sophocles Togedemaru combo, which I love. I mean, we're seeing this time and time again. I would think this would be like a non-EX tournament deck, but there is a Wigglytuff thrown in here. Why not? Why not just play Wigglytuff? Because, I mean, this is like full meme. This is like the funniest meme deck I've ever seen. Okay, so next up, we actually have something that looks to be quite meta, realistically, which is Oricorio, Zeraora, but instead of Silvally or Tapu Koko, we're just playing 2 Arceus. Probably not that bad, to be honest with you. Maybe it's better to just play Tapu Koko or Silvally, but I mean, that's a real deck right there. Next up, we have Leafeon and Jolteon. This is definitely a weird version of this. So Leafeon and Jolteon was one of my favorite like decks that I played this format. It just never really caught on. This deck here is definitely a little bit spicy playing Galvantula and Arceus, but this whole combination here of Leafeon and the Electro-type package I thought was really, really cool. Next up is another Pawmot deck with Psyduck. What is Psyduck? I've never seen this card in my life. Headache, 10 damage. Your opponent cannot use supporter cards from their hand during their next turn. Is this a real card in Pokemon Pocket? This is a real card? How come I've never seen this? This can't be bad. This can't be a bad card. That's hilarious. That's super funny. Shout out to Psyduck. I don't know how I never even saw that card. That's super funny. Okay, next up is Manectric with Zeraora, Arceus, and Tapu Koko. So, you know, again, much like I say in all of these videos, there's really limited amount of Electro-type Pokemon. So a lot of the decks that we're showcasing in this video are going to be of that kind of small sample of cards that are all just paired together differently. Here is Manectric, which again, I do like this card, and we are pairing it with Tapu Koko and Arceus and Zeraora. That was a meta combination at some point. Electrical Cord is very, very strong, and I think it's kind of underrated, and we'll probably see more as the formats go on. Here is actually Pin Missile Jolteon, paired with Staraptor. So Staraptor is a card that works with Berry. And I know some people think of Berry as like the card you pair with Snorlax, but it does actually work with Staraptor, right? So theoretically speaking, you can attack for 130 for 1 energy with Staraptor. It's a very funny high roll strategy. And then we have Jolteon, because I guess why not? I don't really know. I don't know. I guess like the idea is like we're just kind of going to evolve into Staraptor later, and maybe Jolteon's our early game Pokemon. And then we're going to Electrical Cord, move those energies to Staraptor so that we can come in, play Berry, and then hit for 130. That's the idea. Pretty cool. Next up is Alolan Raichu with Zeraora and Oricorio. I think that Alolan Raichu is objectively just not a good Pokemon. I wish it was. It's funny because do you guys remember Yanmega? Remember the Space-Time Smackdown metagame with Yanmega? Like, Yanmega wasn't bad. Alolan Raichu EX is effectively kind of the same thing as Yanmega, but it's Electro-type. And to be fair, like, it is cool that we have this card in the game. It just never saw play because there wasn't really ever any reason to play it. Like, there's not a lot of, like, super relevant Pokemon in the format that are weak to Electric. And if you are playing a Pokemon that's weak to Electric, like, you would just play like a Silvally or Oricorio deck, I think. I don't know. Anyway, here is just a bunch of Pokemon thrown together. This might have been, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what this is. 1 Jolteon, 1 Alolan Raichu, 1 Zebstrika. That's a throwback if you guys remember Zebstrika Pikachu back in the old Mythical Island days, I think, or even Genetic Apex. I kind of forget. 1 Oricorio, 1 Zapdos, 2 Team Rocket Grunt, Poison Barb. I mean, this deck is hilarious. It's just incredible. What a crazy deck. We're playing 2 Eevee Bag, and we have 1 Jolteon in the deck, so that is a little bit interesting. Here is Silvally, Oricorio, and Tapu Koko. I don't know why. I mean, this is a meta deck. This is one of the, I guess not. So if you think about it, I guess like the Tapu Koko Oricorio decks were just playing Arceus, so they didn't actually play Silvally. This deck is probably not bad. It's just one of those weird scenarios where the two top meta decks were like two sides of the coin, and this person's just kind of trying to play down the middle. So that's probably why it just like wasn't like anything popular. But yeah, I mean, this is probably a totally fine deck. Anyway, we're back to Circle Circuit Pikachu, and now we're playing 2 Zapdos, 2 Pachirisu, 1 Zeraora, 1 Oricorio, 1 of the small Tapu Koko. Again, I always think, every single day, I'm like, you know, is Genetic Apex Pikachu good? I don't know if I would play it like this. I don't know if Zapdos is really ever worth playing at all. I think I would rather just play like 2 Oricorio, 2 Zeraora. The new Pichu's coming out, so that definitely could be something as well as an Electro-type Pokemon. Anyway, here is, yeah, so this is more my speed here. This is one of my favorite decks of this format. It's the new Jolteon with Leafeon, Sylveon, and then Oricorio. I played some variant of this deck, and I made a video about it. I actually think it's one of my favorite decks of this entire format. For whatever the reason, it just didn't catch on. I think that as far as like these Oricorio aggro decks go, it's actually really fun. I think it's just a little bit like more complicated and just, I guess, convoluted than like Silvally Oricorio is, so people just didn't really play it. Anyway, Luxray. So Luxray is another one that we'll end up probably talking about pretty significantly in this video. Luxray was like a legitimate deck in the meta right now. I would say it was probably like fringe meta, like B or C tier, but definitely not bad whatsoever. Like, it's a totally fine Pokemon when you pair it with Zeraora, with Volkner, with Electrical Cord, with Oricorio. Like, it's one of the stronger Pokemon in the game. Rare Candy exists as well, so there's a lot of support. Everything kind of lined up pretty well for Luxray. 120 to a bench Pokemon is pretty darn good. It can KO Greninjas. Here is Zapdos with Zeraora and Oricorio. I have nothing else to really say about this. I don't know why you would play this, but you know, there it is. Magnezone and Giratina. This is a throwback with Oricorio. This was meta at one point. I believe this deck is probably playing both electric, yeah, and psychic energies. This deck list also is not bad. Like, I don't know what to tell people. Like, Magnezone, like Giratina and Magnezone, like, was a top deck of the meta at one point. I don't even know why it stopped being meta. Probably just because Silvally was better to pair with Magnezone. I don't really know, but like, this is again probably a deck list that has a lot of potential. Here's another Luxray deck just paired with Jolteon and Oricorio this time. Again, shout out to Luxray, one of my favorite electric type Pokemon in the game. Here is yet another Luxray deck, but now we're playing Galvantula thrown in. So again, you know, just throw everything together and maybe it kind of sticks. You know, at some point it doesn't really matter. You know, it's like, you know, you got to draw the cards anyway. Here is Magnezone with Galvantula. Is there any synergies here? When I see all of these different Pokemon paired together, that's what my mind goes to, is like, you know, is there like a reason why they're paired together? You know, I don't think so. I think it's just sort of, you know, they're just two different Pokemon. They're both electric type. Put them in a deck. Why not? Speaking of, here comes a Alolan Raichu with Oricorio, Zeraora, and Tapu Koko. Again, you know, it's like, why are we playing Alolan Raichu? I mean, there might be some specific scenarios where it's good against, like, because it does more damage based around, you know, how many energy are attached to your opponent's Pokemon. But it's like, would we rather just play like Silvally and do 100 on turn 2? I mean, like, probably, right? Anyway, here is Magnezone with Oricorio and Tapu Koko. Again, you know, I feel like we've taken a look at this. They all blend together after a certain amount of time. Like, we've taken a look at so many decks, it's really hard for me to remember if we've even taken a look at this before. But anyway, moving on. That's all literally the same deck. Okay, so this, I'm not going crazy. These are the same decks. Okay, anyway, moving on. Here is Dragonite EX, now with Shiinotic. So, you know, again, Dragonite EX has a lot of upsides to it. I don't think playing Shiinotic with it is really going to make it that much better. The struggle with Dragonite was never like moving through your deck and finding your Pokemon. It was really just about getting the energies when you need them to, which was a little bit more annoying than it ended up, you know, being. You know, that's really the thing. Like, the only reason Dragonite wasn't good was because sometimes you just don't get the water energy, or sometimes you don't get the electric energy, and that in general felt kind of bad. Here is Dragonite with Magnezone. So, you know what? Again, no real synergy there, I don't think. Just kind of play them together. Two strong, you know, stage 2 Pokemon. Just put them together. Maybe it works out. Who knows? Here's Dragonite with Giratina. So, you know, this is another interesting one, actually. We have Old Amber. So, again, the fossil strategy with Dragonite to pivot out with Leaf. You know, that was sort of what people were doing with Dragonite. And again, it kind of did make sense. Unfortunately, here, you know, Dragonite falls to the same issues. It's like, sometimes we just don't have the energies we need. At least with this deck list, we can just Broken Space Bellow for like 5 turns and then maybe just beat our opponent. Who knows? Giratina is kind of a broken card. Here is Galvantula with Zeraora and Oricorio. Again, I don't know if we've taken a look at this deck before. They all blend together. In the span, I've recorded these all in sequence, so I don't know if you guys realize this, but in the span of like 2 hours, I've taken a look at literally hundreds of decks. Like literally hundreds of decks, and my mind is just fried right now. Should I have done this all at one time? Probably not, but I procrastinate. Here's Magnezone with Oricorio and Pikachu. Here's a funny thing, actually. So at the end of, was it last season or was it the end of A3? I forget. One of the last days of the format, I said like whatever, and I just played basically this deck. I was playing Magnezone, Oricorio, and then one Pikachu. Like, this was a deck that I played on the ranked ladder in Master Ball, like for the entire last day, and we kind of farmed. Like, we actually went up like 100+ points. It was a fun stream. Shout out to anybody that remembers that, who's watching this video, because that was a really, really fun stream, and this deck list ended up being way better than I thought it would be. Here is, again, Zero Aura Oricorio, no Magnezone, but we do have the Thunderbolt, Pikachu, and Shaman. So, you know, we are playing Electrical Cord. This Pikachu is just underrated. Like, 150 plus red is 170. Like, if you're getting KOs with Pikachu, it's actually pretty good. It's really not a bad Pokemon whatsoever. Probably a liability now with Greninja, but anyway. Dragonite EX, now with Snorlax and Shaman and Ilima. Is it good? You know, who knows? But, you know, this is 2 of the new EX Pokemon that came out in EV Grove that, again, just probably didn't see that much play. Anyway, pretty fun to see them together. Maybe that's somewhat relevant. Who knows? This is Silvally and Jolteon. This was something, again, that a lot of people kind of considered. I think the idea here is that, you know, you have a Pokemon that's both strong going first and strong going second. Unfortunately, though, like, you're not consistently, like, I don't know. It just doesn't really make any sense to put these Pokemon together. I'm sure this isn't a bad deck whatsoever. It just makes more sense to play just Silvally without Jolteon, or Jolteon without Silvally, I think is really what it comes down to. Here is Luxray with Sylveon and Jolteon and Oricorio. So a ton of Pokemon in here. But 2 Volkner, 2 Research, 2 Rare Candy. I like this list. I do, actually. Again, anything with Luxray I think is pretty cool. And Sylveon as well. So shout out to them. Here is just a straight Tapu Koko Galvantula deck with the Team Rocket Grunt thrown in. 2 copies of Dawn is interesting. I don't know, like, I don't know why, I guess. I guess Galvantula does have free retreat. But it's interesting because, like, it's discarding the energies, right? So it's like Electrical Cord and Dawn doesn't really work well with Galvantula. I don't really understand this deck, I'll be honest. Maybe I'm missing something about it. Here is Tapu Koko with our Oricorio, and then Thunderbolt Pikachu, and then Farfetch. So very similar to that Magnezone list, except for now we're just not playing Magnezone. Maybe it's fine, but again, I do think Magnezone is cool because it generates the energies. But yeah, Pikachu underrated. Here is Magnezone and Oricorio. So, you know, funny fact that Magnezone and Oricorio, a different version of the deck, but Magnezone Oricorio, that combo, has actually, it was the deck that won the largest Pokemon Pocket tournament of all time. I don't know if people know that. It was like a 1,1700 player tournament. And yeah, Magnezone did get the W, so that's pretty cool. Shout out to Magnezone Oricorio. You can't take that away from him unless there's a larger tournament, and it doesn't win, of course. Magnezone Oricorio did win the largest Pokemon Pocket tournament of all time. Didn't really see play this format. For whatever the reason, people probably just wanted to play Silvally, but there you go. Magnezone Oricorio. And here's Dragonite. This is a little bit more along the lines of how most people were trying to play Dragonite, including myself, which was with Zero Aura, with Dawn, with X Speeds and Leafs and stuff. Like, it was fine. Like, I think it was okay. There's definitely some merit to this deck. Again, dual energy just needs the support, and luckily we are getting it in A4. Here is Oricorio, Zero Aura, and Tapu Koko. I swear we've seen this exact deck before, so we're skipping over it. Here is Jolteon with Sylveon and Luxray and Oricorio. I swear, again, we've seen this deck. This is, I mean, I'm not going crazy. I'm pretty sure we've seen this one again already. Here's Luxray with Zero Aura, Oricorio. Again, am I going nuts here, or are we taking a look at the same decks over and over again? I can't really tell. And here, right here, okay, so now we're getting to the end because this is like meta deck, right? So here is Zero Aura with 2 Tapu Koko, 2 Oricorio, and 1 Arceus. So yeah, like this is, I would say probably the second best Electro-type deck in the format. Maybe other than Magnezone and Sylveon. I guess maybe that's the other contender. This is a good deck list. I think most people just kind of consider to play Silvally just to be a little bit more consistent and a little bit better. In general, this deck does have more upside. The downside is, of course, sometimes you lead Arceus, and that's bad. And that's enough to really kind of chalk this deck down to being a little bit worse than Silvally or Oricorio, in my mind. Next up is Oricorio with Greninja and Sylveon and Giratina. So yes, again, a deck that definitely was meta. I did actually talk about this in the water deck video previously, I believe, whatever order these videos come out. But yeah, no, this is a fine deck list. Its win rates were quite low this format, but enough people did play it. It was definitely a meta deck. And here, of course, is Silvally and Oricorio and Zeraora. I'm now realizing though that Magnezone and Sylveon is actually not even in this video, but of course, whatever, it's fine, right? I mean, we all know that's a deck list. Anyway, this was definitely the top Electro-type deck of the format. Silvally and Oricorio and Zeraora, they really do go together extremely well. We've got the Dawn in here, we've got Gladion, we got two Giovannis, like we're the top. This is the #1 aggro deck in the entire game, but it's also kind of the best way to play Oricorio. They just go together really well, and I think that there's definitely going to be a spot for a deck like this, at least for quite some time. Oh, look, I can make the cards blue. That's pretty cool. Okay, how do I get rid of it? I have no idea. Who knows? Can I go back? There we go. All right, guys, that's the video. That is every Electro-type deck in the game right now. By that, I mean literally every deck that anybody brought to a tournament. So I'm sure there's other Electro-type decks, but not that we have seen them or know them. I didn't build all these decks, of course. These are decks that people literally brought to tournaments and played. So shout out to all of you guys. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Let me know if you guys are liking this video series. Again, I'm pre-recording these all in a row because I will be gone this weekend. And we're leading up into A4, so I just wanted something on the channel, and I figured this would be kind of fun. So there you go. Maybe we end up just covering every single deck in the game. That's the whole idea with this series. So anyway, guys, yeah, that's the video. Peace out, guys. Have a good one. We'll see you guys later. Like and subscribe. And yeah, bye.